TalesFromYourServer, episode 32. My coworker has a weird issue with me. I casually push her buttons which quickly showed management her true colors. I can't tell short stories for the life of me, so apologies in advance. I like context, it's a blessing and a curse. Let's go ahead, set the setting a little more. Owner Carly antagonist Linda manager Ashley hosts Carol and Amp. Jen, I recently got a new serving job at a fine dining wine bar with fresh seafood, a gourmet cheese room, sushi bar, and scratch kitchen. It's just a part-time gig to get myself more experience, as in my other job I serve very fast casual American fare with a lot of tables, but with very low daily tip potential. I work each job every other day and then have Sundays off. Keeps my days from feeling repetitive. Only working there 2 days a week and I've worked there 7 nights. Linda has also been here for about 2.5 weeks, but she works here 4 to 5 days a week. I've known for a while Linda doesn't like me very much. One of the last times I worked with Linda she was on a bartending shift and hadn't been getting out my drinks. Had a table wait 15 minutes for a glass of wine, but she wouldn't allow me behind bar, then started to loudly argue with me about whether or not I sent them in. When I found the ticket for my drink punched as a completed order, she loudly chastised me for being unprofessional in front of customers and embarrassing myself at the workplace. I very sternly said something along the lines of "ain't that the pot calling the kettle black," and just kinda walked away. At the end of the night I made $115. I had to tip out dish, host, and amp, bar. I decided $5 a piece was fair enough, considering my total, and left. Keep in mind, this is a small gourmet restaurant. On nights we aren't busy, servers do our own dishes and bar, and don't do tip outs. If it's slow, hosts and amp, dish go home early W/O tips. The next shift I had, Linda wasn't there, but Jen was. Jen went on to tell me that Linda told her directly that she didn't think Jen deserved tips for her job, and that it was ridiculous because that money should be going to bar. Jen told me, without prompting, that she heard how Linda talked to me the last time we worked together, and that she really didn't think that it was acceptable, but didn't want to add flame to the fire by saying something. I come into work Thursday and we were clearly overstaffed. I was the last one on rotation, got there at 4 p.m, and by 7 o'clock I'd taken one to-go order. The couple was incredibly nice and thankful, though repetitively said how helpful and thoughtful I was at explaining the menu, tipped me $6 on one sushi entree and a bottle of homemade salad dressing. Promised they'd come back soon and request me as their server even. Good people. After they left, I grabbed a staff drink and said well, today, Saturday, Linda was again at bar. Pretty much as soon as I came in, Jen found a moment to pull me aside and tell me that while I was at my other job Friday, Linda made a complaint about Jen, and I, the owner Carly, had already pulled Jen aside to talk to her about it, and Jen heard my name wrapped up in it, so wanted to give me a heads up. Jen told me that she thinks Linda is an absolute bully and that it's really upsetting her. Carly asks to speak to me for a moment in her office, but suddenly a customer calls and asks to speak to the owner. Guess who it was? It was the nice to-go order people who just decided to call 2 days later to buy the owner's words, rant and rave about your service. I couldn't believe my luck. Carly shook my hand and told me I did a really good job and never talked to me about Linda's complaints. I immediately realized that knowing about Linda's complaints, but having management not know that I know, was powerful information that I could use to my advantage if needed. My shift goes on and Linda is super irate all evening. I went out of my way to sell full bottles of wine as much as I could so that I wouldn't have to worry about her making my drinks, and got quite a few glasses of my own wine while she was servicing tables. At one point, I accidentally rung in a Pinot Noir, even though it was 86'D, and she flipped out. Even the owner's husband was very lightly telling her it wasn't a big deal and was picking out an inexpensive Pinot from the wine room. She kept going on, and I finally looked at her and just said, "I'm really going to need you to be nicer to me," grabbed the bottle offered, and walked off. Not long after him walking behind her in a walkway, and without realizing I'm there, she says to herself mockingly, I am going to northeast at yo utoben. I said ah. Later in the evening, as I'm holding a very heavy tray, she holds a door open for me, and as I'm rather focused, I didn't think to say thank you, she very loudly goes aha, you're welcome. Just kinda dumb rude stuff. A 55-year-old woman working customer service should have more tact. At this point, I'm kinda just like, what do I have to lose? I've worked here for 7 days. I got the manager Ashley alone, and pulled a very innocent, hey, I hate to be this person, I know you have a lot going on right now, but Linda has been being really harsh to me, and it's gotten bad enough, that I have Jen and Carly both coming up to me saying that they aren't okay with how she's speaking to me. Ashley said that she'd seen it herself a bit, and that she would mention it without mentioning that I brought it up, and told me that they really like having me there and not to worry about it. About 10 minutes later I see and vaguely hear Linda saying things about my service, work ethic, and making a bunch of her like you see gestures. I rung in a drink to go back to bar to be annoying and nosy, basically, and Linda shut up pretty quickly. The night goes on, and closing time is afoot. Linda keeps repetitively asking if I've printed my revenue yet, and at first I couldn't understand why. As soon as I printed out my report, she circles my total beer sales, total wine glass sales, and total wine bottle sales, and tells me that those are the numbers I should be using to calculate her tip out. Keep in mind, I went out of my way to sell bottles of wine so I could avoid using her service, and sold $200 worth of just wine bottles, which was half of my total sales on this slow night. I ended up with a shit section filled with just friends of the local band that was singing. They all shared bottles of wine and apps. I'm new enough that asking how to do tip outs based on total drink sales was really reasonable, especially as it's not restaurant policy. I grabbed my report, all of my tips, walked up to the manager to turn in my cash for the night, and in the most innocent voice I could muster up, ma'am, what would the proper tip to bar be based on my total drink sales? Honestly, on a night like tonight, you don't even need to tip bar. We all just kinda helped each other out all night. You got some of your own drinks. Oh, well, Linda said I need to be calculating her tip based on my total drink sales. Well, no one would ever expect you to tip based on your full bottles of wine. Oh, I think she expects me to. Could you just tell me how much you think I should tip her out, so I know I didn't do it incorrectly? \DOES some quick math \. Based on your beer and wine glass sales, 5% of total sales would be about $6. Thanks. I grabbed out $6, placed it on the bar, and without saying anything to Linda, walked into the dish pit / back room to finish my drink. I hear Linda stomping around and approach the manager with attitude. She just completely stiffed me on a tip. No, she didn't. I calculated how much I should have been tipped based on her revenue report. She completely stiffed me and walked out. I also just calculated how much she should have been tipping you. Except, I figured it should have been 0. The way you're acting is completely unprofessional. You shouldn't be calculating anything on anyone's revenue reports. We aren't going to schedule you for the next week. After that we can see if you can play nice with coworkers. I left my drink at Dish and Damp, headed out the back door to avoid confrontation, but had the pleasure of seeing Linda stomp to her car in a hissy fit. Never have I ever seen karma act so swiftly in my favor. Never have I ever had such a random idea go so well. Everything just kinda lined up in my favor. If I hadn't had been able to push the full bottles of wine, the disagreement over whether or not I needed to tip out on bottles wouldn't have happened. If those customers had called any later, Carly would have had the meeting where she told me I was on thin ice like Jen due to Linda's complaint. Instead, I kinda just cast reflect, but I look innocent and amp. Spooked. It just felt nice. Wanted to share. Thanks for reading. They're not letting the fucking bride in? What a piece of shit. I work as a bouncer for a tiny little dual nightclub. We have a regular college bar and then a goth bar next door. Two completely different kinds of clientele. The goth kids are very rarely an issue. All the Dutcherbag brothers and chicks are always an issue. If someone gets thrown out of either club, it's 98% of the time a drunken Dutcher bag bro. The chicks usually don't cause an issue and are usually the first to apologize. Enter stage left drunken Bridezilla. Last night a massive 50+ person wedding party comes in. Trickles in through most of the night until the bride and groom show up. Bride already drunk stammers up to the door and tries to walk past me. I stick an arm out and say I need some ideas. I'm checking in her friends behind her. She starts telling me she doesn't have ID and walks up to a friend behind her in line and says I don't think he will let me in without ID. She demands her friend, also drunk, gives her ID. So now she's handing me her friend's ID I watched her get from her friend. A lot of people carry their friends' IDs when they don't have pockets, okay? So I'm looking at the picture, it's definitely not her, and I tell her so. Her guy friends confirm that it's her, and I'm an asshole for doubting a bride. So I'll let her in. Her friend directly behind her doesn't have her ID because the bride just used it to get in and never gave it back. The friend admits it. Instantly I pull the bride out and kick her out. State law, don't give me someone else's ID and throw her a fit that I didn't believe it wasn't your ID. Her wedding party starting on how she just got married today and kicking her out into the 30-degree weather is rude. I tell them it's not my problem. For the next 45 minutes her friends trickle over to me and tell me I'm a piece of shit in their own special ways. The groom even at one point screams at me to chill the fuck out when I'm trying to clear the door for more people to come into the club. No one is leaving, no one is following instructions, and everyone is screaming at me, telling me how angry I am and how much of a piece of shit I am. So they finally leave and come back with the bride's real ID. A fellow bouncer says nope. You got one chance and you blew it. Now the GM and the fellow bouncer are standing between me and this now fiery angry mob in suits and a wedding dress. The groom tried to jump the wall of bouncer to punch me in the face. More people are trying to get in my face and are screaming. This space is filled with about 20 people and is about 5 square feet. Finally they left after one bouncer threw a groomsman up against the wall for swinging at me and in the process knocked down the mother of the bride. I hate my job. Having a driver does not make you exempt from liquor laws. Had a large group last night roll up in a party bus. They had been out wine tasting all day long and came in pretty toasty. Especially one of the men who could hardly stand, let alone walk to the table without stumbling into another. I started absent beverage service for the composed members of the group who ordered a couple bottles of wine, hoping that this man knew his limits and would opt for water. He did not. He wanted me to pour him some wine. When I discreetly declined service, I asked if there was anything else that I could bring him. His response in slurred speech was Jameson. I reiterated that I could not offer alcohol service, which is when the rest of the table tuned in and questioned my decision. They absolutely lost it. They assumed because they weren't driving that they should be served no matter what. Never mind the fact that I'd lose my job if liquor control showed up and saw that guy with a drink in front of him. They decided to box up their appetizers and leave and proceeded to berate my manager on their way out. One man went as far as to tell us that we should be ashamed of ourselves. It was a hell of a way to start the night. Check your entitlement and understand that as a food and beverage server, it's our job to make judgment calls as over service can easily cost us our jobs. And just because you're not driving doesn't eliminate a restaurant's liability should anything happen to you after being overserved at our establishment. I pick up shifts every other week while I work at my professional job. Today I took an order for a grown woman who genuinely didn't know there's more way to cook eggs than scrambled. I asked how she wanted her eggs cooked, and she said, "What do you mean?" I said, "How would you like your eggs?" She said, "Regular, I guess. Not too done, but not too soft." I said, "So scrambled?" She looks me dead in the face and says, "Oh yeah. That's how you cook eggs. How else would you serve them, raw?" I know what rare is. Old fart, I'm 80 years old. You shut up, take my order and I talk. Me, trying to make sure we are on the same page, cool red center. Old fart, I want rare, or you can take it back to the kitchen and shove it up your ass. If it's not rare me, rare is cool red center sir. Old fart, gives me ugly face, I want rare. This is my 100th time hear me, pretending to care. Wow that's awesome time skip end of the meal. Old fart, that steak was rare. Did you do that? Me, lying through my teeth. Yes I went back to the kitchen told then to cook it rare specifically. Old fart, I'm 81 years old, and you're what 20, I'm 24, I know what rare is. You don't. I've been in the industry for 10 months now, and I realize sometimes you'll deal with people who just have sticks up their ass. Once you're over the top rude I have no problem doing the minimum to people who can't be decent. You're my last table, I don't care if I don't get tipped well. I already see it coming, if the arrogant asshole is the one paying. Shocking, single brain cell struggles to write the easiest name in the history of mankind. Please tell me that some of your brains have also decided to vanish while at work. At my former deli job, I used to handwrite food tickets and manually enter the cost into a prehistoric cash register. We wrote down customer names on the tickets sometimes to make sure the order went to the right person. I had started work that day at 5:30 AM. A line was almost out the door by 10. And my brain? Well, it simply had decided to go on strike during the mid-morning rush. Guy comes in and orders. He has been in a few times before, but I couldn't quite remember his name, so I asked him to remind me. His name was Ian. Okay, in reality it is 3 letters. That's not bad, I had seen it many times before. But for whatever reason, my pen stops writing. I honestly forgot how to spell the name. Like I said, brain no call no showed that morning. The rest is a bit hazy. I think I had a singular remaining brain cell that tried to erase this from my memory as a defense mechanism. The line was still long, and for some reason I felt too embarrassed to ask, so I wrote down some letters and carried on. I think I spelled his name with an E like Ian. I knew it looked very wrong, so I quickly rang up his order and put up the ticket before he could see what I did. Once his order was called, he read the ticket by his food to make sure it was his. His eyes scrunch up in confusion, and he gave me a look before leaving. So, if your name is Ian and you purchased a Badger in 2014 and an employee absolutely slaughtered your name, just know that it still haunts me. Drinks are on me buddy. I wish I could ask customers to explain their irrational thought processes. Especially this lady. We have a sign-in sheet at the front podium and it's pretty self-explanatory, you would think. Customers write their name down and the number of people in their party, and I cross off names as I seat parties in the order they arrived. Okay, so the CT looking crone comes in and writes her name down. There is another name above hers that isn't crossed off, for 4 people. I'm gathering menus to seat the 4 top, and she's just lingering there at the podium, blocking the list. I ask her if she has a question and the conversation goes like this. Me, hi, did you have a question? Crone, we'd like a table for 2. Me, oh okay, did you put your name down already? Crone, points to her name, which is clearly not the next one on the list. Yes, we are ready to be seated. Me, okay I see your name and I will call it out as soon as I get to it. Crone, perplexed, well, aren't there any tables available right now? Me, yes, however, you are not the next party on the list. Michael 44 is next. Crone, yeah but they are a party of 4, I swear to God, that was somehow her rationale for deserving to be seated before them. Me, and I have a table for them, so I'm going to seat them now, and then come back to you. Crone crawls back inside of her own butthole and backs away, so I seat Michael 44, and while I'm doing so, this frickin' psycho barnacles herself onto one of our servers, and asks him to seat her. I seriously don't get it. I want so badly to be allowed to ask her how the hell she doesn't realize what a piece of rat fess she's being. Do you know where you are? Saturday during our rush at a casual Tex-Mex restaurant, a very rich looking blonde lady asked if we had blue cheese infused olives to go into an extremely dirty porn star martini with fresh jalapenos. Her brunette friend asked for her margarita with freshly squeezed lime juice. Meanwhile, the bartender, who is not actually a bartender, but a server who's been here 7 years, is getting wrecked on service bar but kicking ass. When I told her what they said, do these bitches know where they are? This is fucking censored. The host knew the brunette. She is an owner of a chain of car dealerships or something. Blonde lady told me she had never been to our restaurant. Can't break the rules of the sub, but that really said everything right there. Everyone and their mother has been to this restaurant, and we are known for our burgers, ribs, fajitas and handshake and margaritas. Yay, corporate mandated greeting no one does. Got stiffed by 2 of the ladies, the other 2 tipped me very well. Just kinda confused about where they thought they were. But I'm allergic to MECL crazy ass lady welcome to XXXX, my name is XX, and I'll be taking care of you today. Can I get you a tea, co? CL I want a water, in a to-go cup, with 6 lemons, on the side. Do not put them in my cup. Yes, ma'am. I can do that for. CL also I want a chicken Caesar salad for my entree. Here's that chicken salad, can I get you anything else? CL I'm allergic to cheese. Make me another one. Our Caesar dressing contains cheese, so I can get you a house salad, but unfortunately I can't get you a Caesar with no cheese. CL no. I want a Caesar salad. With no cheese. Ma'am the actual dressing contains cheese. CL yes that's fine, I'm only allergic to shredded cheese. I sent my manager over to discuss the menu. I don't get paid enough to deal with this shit. Oh, she did eventually get a Caesar salad with no shredded parm. Because she's only allergic to that shit apparently. We are a pizza place. One time a lady called in and was placing a delivery order and tried to ask for shrimp fried rice. I calmly explain we are an Italian restaurant, we do not sell that. She then asks what kind of rice we do sell. I inform her we do not have any dishes with rice, so she asks what kind of sides we have. She ends up getting French fries. Entitled homecoming group called their parents. Hey y'all. This is my first post on this sub, so I hope I adhere to all guidelines and rules about posting. So the story literally happened tonight. I'm currently working at a Taiwanese cafe that sells boba and small tea snacks, and usually we don't get too overwhelmingly busy. Tonight was a night like any other, not too busy, not too slow. We usually close down the restaurant at 11:30 PM and leave the restaurant by 12 AM whenever possible. We don't mind staying past closing to close up, or even to help customers out till 11:45 PM, letting them order drinks to go. We also have a sign clearly stating that the kitchen will close after 11:30 PM. However tonight, at around 11:15 PM, we had a massive Hummer limo parked right in front of our restaurant. All of the service staff looked at each other in dismay, since we knew we were going to be staying way past 12 AM if we were to serve them. So we all decided to allow them to come in and sit, but due to our policy of our kitchen closing at 11:30 PM, we informed them that we were only taking to-go orders for drinks, since our kitchen had already started closing and pouring their oil out of their fryers. The group decided this was alright, and we sat them down, 18 high school students in total. I went out of my way to go up to each table and take each drink order, which totaled 16 drinks. I then placed the order and went right to making the drinks. I got the 16 drinks out in under 20 minutes, right around 11:35 PM. At around 11:40 PM we receive a call. This call was unlike any other that I have ever received and will ever receive. We had one of the group's individual message their parents to complain that our kitchen was closed and unable to serve them. The parent then called us to yell, not to complain, but to legitimate yell at our service staff that it was unacceptable we were refusing to serve their children. After we had tried to explain to the parent that A, we are entitled to our right to refuse service, and B, who are you to dictate when/how we decide to close our restaurant, she blew up. She started to scream in her shrill voice that caused anyone within a 10-foot range to hear the ringing from her voice over the phone. She even threatened to report us to the Better Business Bureau for not adhering to our posted hours. We then gave up trying to explain to the parent and decided fuck it, let's serve them. So literally, right as our kitchen staff was about to leave, having closed down the kitchen, we asked them to reopen to serve 4 measly dishes that they had ordered. These 16 high schoolers then proceeded to stay in our restaurant until about 12:15 am, 15 minutes after closing, requiring the service staff to stay until 1 am to finish closing up. Right before we finished closing up, I walked outside to grab a smoke and I listened in on the 16 high schoolers complaining to the one mom about the terrible service and terrible serving time. I literally almost couldn't hold it in. I busted my ass to take their orders individually, then made each drink to order, getting them out in a timely manner, even reopened the kitchen to serve them their food, and all for a $7 tip on a $140 bill and their complaints to their parents. I was seeing red at the point. Points of concern. 1. If we decided to refuse service to your children, we are allowed to do this due to our right to refuse service at any and all points of contact. 2. If we had the courtesy to tell your children that the kitchen was closed and that they still wanted to be seated to order drinks, that is on your children for taking on that understanding. 3. I have never, ever, in my 10 years of serving customers at restaurants have ever heard, much less witnessed a child complaining to a parent that a restaurant was refusing to serve them, much less have that parent complain to the restaurant. I really cannot believe that this just occurred. A Winnie child, probably 16 to 18 years of age, calling their mom to have them call us and complain. This is the epitome of an entitled child and an entitled parent.